Say and all the chizik that we gain, bring nachat ruach to Hashem Yitbarach. Invoke rachamei shamayim for all those in need of yeshuot and nechamot, and serve as a zchut for Klal Yisrael. Amen. Tonight's shiur is sponsored for the refuah shlema of Pola Bat Sarah. May Hashem grant her a refuata nefesh, a refuata guf, amongst all of Cholei Yisrael. Amen. Okay, Chodesh Av. Okay, preparing for the Geulah, and we all feel it, and we're all talking about it, and everyone's heard the messages and getting all the emails and the texts and the messages, and we are all sort of grasping at all ends to just try to make sense of all the chaos that's going on. Let's try to make a little bit of sense and really try to see what we can do in the next week. Next week being Tisha B'Av, what we could do to try to really prepare ourselves for the Geulah. So it's written in Yirmiyahu, Sefer Yirmiyahu. It is a time for Yaakov to suffer, and from it he will be saved. Et tzara liYaakov, hi liYaakov, umimena yivasheya. What we learn from this particular pasuk is that out of the suffering, out of the pain and the chaos and the darkness and the confusion, out of this suffering comes redemption. So not only does it say to us that out of it will come the redemption, but what we're also learning from this is an important lesson, is that without the suffering, there won't be a redemption. It won't come. So Hashem is, like we were saying before, Hashem has been preparing us for this. This is nothing that should come as a surprise. We should all be as well equipped as we possibly can. It's our job now to maybe implant more that which we have been learning. But the truth is, it's the final, God willing, the final Geulah. And the final Geulah means that it's a lasting, permanent, enduring Geulah. It's a Geulah that the suffering at one point is limited and not lasting and going to be temporary. And although we're going to see from this pasuk, it says, Samchenu kimot initanu kiyemot ra'inu ra'a, make us glad according to the days when you afflicted us, according to the years when we saw trouble, as written in Tehillim. So although it seems like this Galus is forever and a day, it's not going away. It's one thing after the other. It seems so dragged on. It seems forever. If you ask anybody, today I heard it was just the 30 days for the boys, and I thought, wasn't it a very, very long? It seems like it's been so long. It's been so heavy on our shoulders. So what does this pasuk in Tehillim teach us? It says that even though the exile seems like it's never ending, the exile is filled with suffering, we can't bear it anymore. We know that it is temporary. But at the end of the day, out of all of this seemingly never-ending suffering, the Geulah will come, and that will be permanent and enduring. It won't ever end. It's a finality, right? In terms of our where we're destined, Be'ezrat Hashem, to go, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we're asking Hashem that with the feeling that we had as if that this whole suffering has never stopped, it's just unbearable. We're asking Hashem in the same amount that we feel that feeling of when is this going to end, we want to be rewarded, Hashem, with the permanency of the Geulah, that it will never end. That's what we're asking to Hashem. In other words, to have that feeling of being in Geulah, a never-ending Geulah, and in that place of continuous, everlasting peace. Now, last month, the month of Tammuz, we spoke about the fact that the rectification of the eyesight was our job and our calling. In Tammuz, our job was to see things clearly, see things good, in spite of all that's going on, in spite of the calamities, in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the suffering that we are going through right now, and of course what Am Yisrael has gone through in particular during these 3 weeks, our job last month was to work on being able to see things through godly vision. In other words, to judge Hashem per se in favor. To understand that everything that Hashem is doing, to see things properly in the proper perspective, that Hashem is doing everything for our eternal good and for the ultimate good of Am Yisrael. That was our job during Tammuz. And we learned that through Tammuz, right, Taf, Mem, Zayin, Zichru, Torat, Moshe, with the 3 letters, through remembering the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, Be'ezrat Hashem, that gives us the koach, that's the emes, that's the truth. And when we attach ourselves to the Torah and to the truth, we're able to see more clearly. Because what is seeing? Seeing, and we spoke about this, I don't remember, I think during Shavuot, yes, we spoke about the whole idea of seeing and hearing, and I'm going to repeat a little bit of it because it's very important, because this month, Av, we have to rectify our hearing. So I want to talk a little bit about, again, how to connect the two. When I see the grapes, I see it in front of me. I see what's looking at me. There's no question, there's no doubt. It's clarity. It's pure clarity. It's understanding what I see is what it is. And so Hashem asked us last month to see things in that clarity, in that mindset of knowing 100% that no matter what it is that you're actually seeing on the outside, see it through my eyes. Put on godly glasses, see it through my eyes, and see it clearly that it's good. That's what our avoda was last month. And this month, Hashem is now, we're moving forward one more step, and Hashem's saying, now that you've worked on your vision, I want you to work on your hearing. And what we spoke about in our shiur and Shavuot was, what is the whole process of hearing? Interestingly enough, and this is our axiom, Shema Yisrael, Shema, to listen. What are we listening? What do we need to hear? So the idea of hearing is that when we say Shema, how does the process of hearing go? The process of hearing is one note after the other note after the other note, and it's a buildup of notes where after the buildup of notes, we get to collectively hear the whole song. We hear one part of the lyric and the other part of the lyric, and together, we don't hear the song all at once. We get to compile the music in our mind by remembering this note and that note and that note, and together we form in our mind the song, right? That's what hearing is about. Hearing is the process of connecting the dots, of putting this together with that. Even when I talk, I'm not saying the whole sentence out at once. You have to remember the first word in my sentence to connect the whole sentence and the idea together. By the time I finish it, it's compiling the thought out of the words that I'm saying. That's the process of hearing. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to connect the dots in this month. We're supposed to connect the idea that although things are happening all over the place, we see random events, right? This rocket being shot to this airplane falling down, and the war going on over here, and all these different things that are coming at us, right? We're supposed to connect the dots and understand that Av, our Father, is running the show. That Av is here with us. What is Av? Aleph stands for Edom. Bet stands for Bavel. Av, within it, the 2 galuyot, the 2 exiles. Be'ezrat Hashem, the third is going to be done and over with. That we're in, that we're the fourth one. I'm sorry, it's going to be done and over with. But Be'ezrat Hashem, what is Hashem hinting to us in Av? Is that within me, being your Father, I'm with you throughout the galuyot. I'm with you. Don't worry. Hold on to me. Hear me. Hear what I'm trying to say to you. Hear your internal voice. Hear the voice of your neshama. Our tafkid in this world is to not block out that inner voice that keeps yelling at us. If we actually heard what the neshama was saying to us, how the neshama cries to us every time we do something that distances us from Hashem, every time we have a thought of questioning Hashem's hashgacha, the neshama is yelling out, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm telling you, it's truth. Believe in Hashem. If we would only have that clarity of thought to listen to what the neshama is saying to us. Every time we transgress, every time we say a word out of place, every time we yell, the neshama is yelling back at us, telling us, stop it. You're killing me in here. You're killing my life force. You know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying? And so our job is to hear ourselves, hear Hashem, hear what the world is saying about us, right? We're living in a pretty nice bubble, pretty much till now. We all know, Esav Sonet, Esav Sonet Yaakov, and we heard about it, and it's halacha, and we believe in it. But boy, are we really hearing it now? We're really hearing it now. So that's this month. This month is to hear it and understand that it's Hashem. Hashem, I hear you behind everything. I'm connecting the dots and I'm putting it all together. Another indication of the whole idea of hearing is the letter of the month is Tet. The letter of the month Tet, when you look at it from the way that it's shaped, it actually looks like an ear. So it shows and it's telling us. Now, Tet is also 9, which is the 9 months of pregnancy, that at the end of all of this difficulty, remember that at the end of 9 months, you're going to have a beautiful baby called Geulah. You're going to have this beautiful light, this shining light, this amazing revelation that you're going to know it was all part of the plan. It's all going to be clear. So when is the letter Tet first written in the Torah? The letter Tov is the first time we see the letter Tet in the Torah. During the pasuk that Hashem says, "Let there be light," and there was light, and Hashem saw that light was good, and so Hashem separated light from darkness. So what we see here is that Hashem is telling us in this month, Tov, the Tet. When is it good? Good is light. When is it? But it's interesting. Hashem says after every part of creation, Hashem says Tov, which means after the completion of a day, after the whole thing is done, after the whole galut is over and done with, when it's the complete formation the process is finished, it's going to be good. And the light that Hashem was actually referring to here is the light of Mashiach. The light from within the darkness. Hashem separated darkness from within the light. What was that light that Hashem said was good? He says, from within the darkness of Av, of the difficulty and the pain and the suffering, there's light. I'm your light. See me and you'll see light. That's how we get through these times. There's no other way. Sure, there's Valium and sure there's chamomile tea, but the real medicine for us to get through this is holding on to Emes, is to hold on to Hashem, is to hold on to Av. Something else that's very, very, very beautiful. When you take this month is the month of Gevurah, of judgment. Gevurah in Gematria is 216. But so Hashem is saying, you worked so well on your vision last month. I don't want you to look at this month from the eyes of Gevurah, from the eyes of only dinim. I want you to see chesed. I want you to see the kindness and the rachamim within my dinim. How do we do that? Take 72 times 3, and it equals 216. 72 is the gematria of chesed. Chesed 3 times is the same thing by us relating to the concept of Gevurah. What are the 3 times of the chesed? The 3 B'tei Mikdash. Hashem says, I'm taking the Gevurah and divide it now into 3 different stages. With every Beis HaMikdash, within the Gevurah, see the chesed. Every Beis HaMikdash is going to bring chesed to it. Now in this generation, where unfortunately we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, our job is to reveal that light from within the darkness. Hashem turned it over to us. We said this last year. Hashem took the Beis HaMikdash as collateral. He said, you you're not justifying the light that's within and embedded in the walls of the Beis Hamikdash. So I have to take it back. That's the collateral. But I'm telling you, if you just shine your light, if you just work on revealing light into this darkness, I'll give it back to you. And so we have to build up the vessel. We have to prepare the foundation so it can absorb the light, which is what we've been talking about. If me, you, all of us don't prepare our vessel, our light, we won't be able to absorb. We need those filters. We should understand there's chesed in those filters of not seeing Hashem, because we wouldn't be able to withstand the light. If Hashem shined His beautiful, amazing, incomprehensible light to us, we wouldn't be able. Look what happened on Har Sinai. We had just witnessed all these amazing miracles, and we just heard the first dibur, and we just couldn't. Our neshamas just left us. We can't even compare the darga, the level of where they are and the level of we are, with all that we work. With all due respect to our generation, we're not there, and they couldn't stand it. So us. How are we going to be able to, we're all saying we want Mashiach, of course we want Mashiach, but are we really, really prepared? Our Emuna boot camp in every single one of our houses, have we been really training? We've been really, really training ourselves to be able to prepare that vessel to receive that beautiful light that's, God willing, going to be shining down to us very soon. That's what we should be, searching for. That's what we should be looking for. And all this within the hug of Hashem, the hug of Av. Because Hashem, look at that. Imanuchi b'tzara. Can you not? If there's any other month we can see it, it's this month. Hashem chose this month with all the calamities to name it Av. Not any other month. Any other month. The most mournful, the most sad time of the year, Hashem says, I'm going to put my name on it because I want you to know that I'm here with you. Is that not a hug, a heavenly hug? That's our consolation. So how do we get over this difficulty? By feeling Hashem's loving embrace. There's no other way to get through this. There's no other way to get through fear, and we're going to talk a little bit about fear. But there's no other way to get through this but to close our eyes, sway back and forth, and to just feel Hashem's loving embrace. There's no other way to get through this. I want to just say something, because I know that one of the things that is heavily weighing on every single one of our hearts is the whole idea of our beautiful, beautiful righteous neshamas that have been leaving this world so painfully and so with such tragedy, and then seeing these mothers go and talk about their beautiful sons who have been leaving this world one by one by one, and we have to address it. I was yesterday in a shiur with the Rebbetzin that I learned with Emuna. She said something that, hearing it, I'm sure I'm going to get goosebumps again, and I hope it affects you all the way it affected me. She read from a newsletter, brought something down by the Arizal that talks about the neshamas that die al Kiddush Hashem. And he brings down there that the Arizal says, embrace yourself. This is heavy stuff, but it's also very, very consoling, very comforting. And he brings down there, the Arizal says that before a neshama, we all know this, before a neshama comes down in this world, they're shown their whole entire life. And they literally, per se, spiritually sign on a contract that they agree to the circumstances of their life. None of us are here, and none of us per se should be asking why, because we all knew what we were headed for. We all are in amnesia right now, but we all knew it. These neshamas that have been falling on Kiddush Hashem and have been passing on to the next world, they were showed their life before they came down the world. And they were told by Hashem, if Am Yisrael is in need of a kapara, will you be willing to come down to this world? If they don't do tshuva, are you willing to be a sacrifice, korban, to be mechaper, to atone for the sins of Am Yisrael? And these neshamas agreed to it. These neshamas came down to this world knowingly that and not knowingly, but not knowingly, whether they knew Torah, whether they knew what Shema Yisrael were, these neshamas are righteous neshamas. These neshamas knowingly came down into the world knowing that there may come a day where they were going to have to give up their souls and give up their lives because we didn't do our job of coming back to tshuva. And they willingly did this. And they, I'm sure somehow or another, on a spiritual level or another, knew this. They knew this. And so the place where they're in is imaginable. It's undefinable. It's something that we can't even fathom. So what I'm saying to you, these neshamas are such righteous neshamas, and they're in a heavenly place. That was their pathway in life. They came down knowing that, unfortunately, or fortunately at one point, they may have to give up their lives for us. So on one hand, it's a consolation. On the other hand, it demands from us an amazing, endless amount of soul searching and self-accounting. The amount of tshuva that needs to be emanating from every single one of us during these days in particular is much stronger than a Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, because really we have so much weighing on our plate right now, and we can really make a difference. Every bracha is another piece of ammunition we're sending to Gaza, to our soldiers. Every bracha with kavana. It's taking a soldier and shipping him off to Gaza. Stand in front of that bullet. Don't let that rocket, explode. Take away that booby trap. That's what we're doing. That's what we're able to do. Every time we're able to see Hashem, and Hashem oz la'amo yiten, Hashem gives us the strength, so to speak, to strengthen Him to be able to save us. What a partnership. What an amazing partnership Hashem gave us. What empowerment that gives us. Every single one of us, we walk around the house saying, what can I do? What can I do? That's what we could do. That's what we can do. That's what we have to do. That's it. Every single one of us has to increase our connection to Hashem, to give Hashem strength to save the soldiers, to save Klal Yisrael, to save us, and to bring the Geulah. Be'ezrat Hashem, it's embracing Hashem. So what do we do with fear? Anybody have any thoughts to add into? Yeah, okay. How do we see the light? If we remember these, I tried to bring it to like 3 practical, insights. If we can see these 3 ideas in front of us, then Be'ezrat Hashem will be able to see light in the darkness. One of the things I came upon is to remember that darkness preceded light. When Hashem created the world, it's written in Micha, let me just first 1 second, it's written in Micha, don't laugh at me, my enemies. Although I have fallen, I will get up. Although I sit in darkness, Hashem is my light, right? Al tismechi le'oivaiti, we all know, right? What does the Navi teach us through this? Is that the way that reality was designed in this world is that darkness must precede light. We have to know that in everything that we do in this world, everything that we want to do good in this world, it's going to be met by darkness. It's going to be met by obstacles. There's going to be a descent before the ascent. There's going to be chaos before clarity. There's going to be darkness before light.
Every Jewish day starts with the evening.
No, absolutely. That's what we have to remember. That's what we have to remember during these dark, difficult, chaotic times, is that the light is going to come. It will come. And believing in the prophet, we're in the middle of the prophecy now, okay? We're in the middle. We want to see the happy ending. We have to wait for the end. We're not at the end yet. Wait for the end. The end is coming. God willing, barachamim. That's what you always have to say. Barachamim, barachamim. The end is going to come for sure. The light is going to be revealed for sure. Barachamim. Not b'yisurim. Barachamim. Look how close they're together. We want it barachamim. If we believe in the full prophecy, which is why Rabbi Akiva was able to laugh when he saw the fox walking through the ruins of the temple. He said, if this happened, then for sure the prophecy is still in the middle. It's gonna end good. If I'm zochet to see part of the prophecy, that's my consolation. I know that the end of the prophecy is only good. It's Geulah. That's what makes me laugh. Because of that, I can laugh. Because of that, I can, what does Av say? Mima'atim b'simcha. Lessen, it doesn't say to totally get rid of the simcha. Diminish it one notch lower. From that place, you can also serve Hashem, but it doesn't mean to totally dismiss, eradicate simcha, chas v'shalom. That's not what it says. So we have to know that that's the place. I mean, the emails that come out to me all the time, how am I supposed to be, how am I supposed to see light? That's the inyan, is to know we're in the middle. It's yet to be revealed. It's going to come, and to believe in that, and to, with all our hearts and all our soul, to believe in that. And that light, what is light? Light is clarity. Light is joy. Light is knowing that we are on we're on a pathway to our final destination. It's clear, it's in front of us. I know, I could see where we're going from here. Number 2, another beautiful insight, is to reinforce the idea that in order for light to have been existed from the first place, it had to have been created. In other words, Hashem created the light, and embedded in the light is the darkness, which is an offset of what you said. Within the light is the dark. Hashem had to separate the two. So that means within the darkness there's light. It's all an admixture. It's all mixed together. So even though it really, and it is, it's difficult and it's painful and it's heart-wrenching and it's a hard operation every day for every single one of us. But within this darkness, inside of it, there's light. And if we look at it from, again, the godly view of Av, of our Father running the show, then we can be able to see that light. That is the light. That is the clarity, is that it's coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And last but not least, which is a point we brought up before, is that in order for a day to be called a day in the Torah, it had to have darkness and light. So again, that's reinforcing the idea that for a picture to be complete, for Hashem to seal it with the words, and Hashem saw it was good, in order for it to be good, in the DNA of creation, it has to have darkness and it has to have light. It has to have both aspects in order for it to be completed and called a full creation, a creation of a full day. So that's also something very important. Yeah, I said the story. Okay, so I said that already. Another thing we need to remember, it's written in Eicha, nothing bad descends from above. The epitome of all goodness is knowing that everything that Hashem does is for the good. In other words, if I hold on to this message that I know that Hashem does everything good, that as it comes down from Shemayim, as it's going through all the sfirot, as it's going and reaching down to this world, It originally started from all goodness. And even as it went through, sure, it went through various different nuanced changes because it had to redirect itself based on us, based on how we responded, based on what we're entitled to, and based on what we're deserving of. But the bottom line is, from Shemayim, from above, everything is good. And to remember that. The Rebbetzin said something amazing yesterday. She says, when you look up and you see the rockets, think of candies coming down. They're candies falling down. Because within that, Hashem is saying, look up. Where are the rockets coming from? Up. Hashem's saying, look up. Hashem is forcing us to look up. Every time I hear a helicopter going over my house, I'm looking up. Saying, oh Hashem, you want me physically to constantly look up. And then you see that light. Don't look at it as a bad light. Look at it as Hashem's light. Did anyone see, by the way, that picture that one of the IDF soldiers took after one of the Iron Domes hit one of the rockets? Now there's a picture.
So many of them.
Of the angel. The angel. There were, really? This cloud, it was like a cloud, almost like figure of an angel. You can actually see an angel going like this with her wings in the sky. Nobody saw it? I have to pass it around. But he was in shock. It's you could see, but it's so clear. It's like, it's not just some, if you really look, it's really, you could see the face, you could see, I have to pass it around. But it's absolutely amazing. That's what that is what Hashem is trying to send the message. Look up. See, it's from me. Elevate the fear. The fear of the rockets is just a pathway to get us to earn and work on our Yirat Shamayim. We're not supposed to fear the rockets. We're supposed to fear the awesomeness, the greatness of Hashem, the power of what He can do. He could do it this way and He could do it that way. And who holds that power? Hashem gave it, like I said, to us. We're co-partners. We are partners in the master plan. Every single one of us can direct that missile to go here or to go there. Every single one of us. And it's amazing power to remember. One last point I want to bring out is that the last week's Parshat Masai, talks about and describes in clarity of the whole idea of Am Yisrael entering Eretz Yisrael. Now, what does Eretz Yisrael symbolize for us? Eretz Yisrael symbolizes for Am Yisrael to live in open, godly revelation. In other words, when Hashem talks about Eretz Yisrael, Hashem talks about you entering a state where you can openly feel my presence, where there is no more, per se, Emuna. It's total Yediyah. It's total knowing, absolute knowing. That's the idea of understanding Eretz Yisrael. On the other hand, though, it also mentions how important it is for Am Yisrael to construct boundaries around Eretz Yisrael. In other words, to put a limitation around the borders of Eretz Yisrael, so that there's a limitation, per se, of Hashem's manifestation and Hashem's presence, which is one of the reasons why we read this parsha during the 3 weeks. Very interesting. On one hand, Hashem talks about in this parsha the godliness and the open revelation of feeling Hashem through Eretz Yisrael, us entering Eretz Yisrael. On the other hand, it also talks about that limitation, the concealment, the hiddenness that also occurs within the world of open revelation of Hashem. So that's one of the reasons why it falls during Ben HaMetzarim, during the 3 weeks. What are we supposed to understand? Is what we're supposed to understand, and again, this is a playoff of what we've been learning tonight, is within the godliness of Eretz Yisrael, within that concept of living in a place where Hashem is openly revealed to us, and we can feel His presence and be connected to Him in a very tangible, real way. We have to know that Hashem set limits to it. And Hashem, remembering that yes, it's very hard to sometimes see Hashem in all of the chaos that's going on in the world. And it's scary and it's fearful. But to remember that there's a part of us that does know and does recognize Hashem's godliness. That's our soul. We do have within us that godliness that sort of limited the borders of the soul are the body. The body limits us from living in Eretz Yisrael. But we have to know that within that that constriction, within that place of confinement, there is Hashem. And He's right there. Hashem is right here within us. And if we just listen, Shema, if we just listen to that voice yelling out to us, saying, I know the truth. And in that limit, it's written in Tehillim, Min ha-metzar karati ya, anani v'merchav ya. Hashem, from within the Meitzar, from within the confinement, Hashem is going to answer us. And not only is He going to anani, not only is He going to answer us, but how? V'merchav, in abundance. B'shefa, it's going to come down so amazingly fruitful and beautiful, with such abundance, with such love, with such embrace. From within that constriction, we have to remember that Hashem is going to answer us. Hashem is going to fulfill His prophecy. Every time any of us feel in our own personal exile, or within the exile of the collective nation, that what we're going through right now, at any moment, if we ever feel like we're fearful, what are we going to do? Remember that we're in the middle of the constriction, that the opening is yet to, Be'ezrat Hashem, be revealed to us. And I'm hoping that we got some, yeah.
Can I ask a question? I don't want to sound morbid, but is that really the bottom line? Is knowing that Hashem is going to be there with me no matter what? And I just think about the horrible things that we hear about what Hamas does to people. Isn't that the fear? I mean, I don't think I would ever feel that there's no Hashem, and that things are not from Shemayim, and Hashem is not with me. But even those thoughts are not necessarily going to be consoling. If God forbid, chas v'chalila, a person, God forbid, is tortured. How do you deal with that fear?
It's knowing that we don't know what the true picture behind that torturing is. Listen, I'm going to take it one step further from that. I hear about what happened to Rabbi Akiva at the end of his life. I can ask that question over and over and over again throughout the entire history of the Jewish world, of the whole Jewish nation, of the Holocaust. I can ask that every step along the way. There is no answer. There is no answer to that. The consolation is that I know we look at it as how could we are as parents, we would never harm our child, God forbid, in such a torturous, God forbid, kind of way. But the truth is again, we don't really know the whole picture. We see that person's life here and now. I don't know. We don't know. You know, one bit of clarity, an angle of it. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he found out that the Mitzrayim were forcing Am Yisrael to put the babies inside the concrete, he turned to Hashem and he said, "These are babies. These are babies. Why the babies?" And Hashem said, "Yes, you're right. They're babies. Do you know where these babies came from? I'm going to let you take out one baby from the concrete." Does anybody know this? Anybody hear this? Right? And he was able to take out one of the babies. And that baby eventually grew up. And somebody fixed me here. Who was that baby? I forgot his name. Micha, right? Micha, who ended up doing Avodah Zarah. Now again, I'm just giving you an angle. I didn't say that's the whole. I didn't say it's cross the border the way that it always is. I didn't say anything. I'm just here to say that much bigger and greater people. This is a whole other question. Why do good things happen? Bad things happen, God forbid, to good people. But it says no bad comes down. It's not bad. Why is it not bad? It seems bad, but that's the deception. That's the deception. It's holding on to that inner, deeper knowing. If Hashem said it's not bad, it's not bad. It's where the intellect can't grasp it. That's where you have to go to your Emuna. Going to that place of knowing, Hashem, you love us. You're taking us to a good place. take care of these beautiful neshamas. We know that they're in a good place. We know. And again, that little bit of news that we said here is that these neshamas somehow or another knew. They knew the destiny of what was going to happen to them. They somehow understood it at that point, that that was good for them. And they agreed to it. That's all I could say. I don't think there's any answer for that. I don't.
I don't know that I don't feel fear. I feel sadness for the families.
That I do too.
That is so hard for me to deal with because
Right.
I can't, just these parents.
Right. So it's interesting because the women yesterday at the shiur were saying, well, why don't we send them a copy of this newsletter? Because I'm sure, fact is, I don't know if anyone knows, one of the mothers, Rabbi Lau, the chief rabbi of Israel, came and visited and paid a shiva call to her. And the mother said to the Rab, just tell me, please be honest with me, is my son with Hashem? And he looked at her and he says, with no doubt, your son is in Hashem's embrace. She said that was enough. You know, the problem is when our bodies were sent into exile, so was our das. So was this inner clear perception and knowledge that ties the intellect with the emotions. It was sent away into exile together with our bodies. We don't have that clear, absolute knowing that it's 100% good somehow for these neshama. We don't have that. So all we have is our rationale and the judgments of what we've been seeing in our own experiences. If we had das, which is Emuna, if we had that, nothing of this we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
I have one more question. I don't know if it occurred to any of you, but think about this for a second. With the 3 boys that were kidnapped, there was no emphasis in any way, place, or form on the fathers. Everything was completely on the mothers.
Yeah.
Did that occur to anyone as just being
I always thought about it, and I was always
strange
curious
a little
why
bit?
the mothers are always in the picture and not the fathers.
No, that's right.
And especially Rachel. Did you notice that it was especially Rachel, the mother Rachel? She was the forefront.
But the question
It
is,
says that the
why?
women are going to bring Geulah.
Yes. Yes.
But it was almost like they weren't in the picture. They lost a son. I mean,
Right.
I felt horrible for them. I was like, no
It's
one-
interesting. Do you know what Rabbanit Mizrahi said? Did you hear? Be'er?
No, what did she say?
Be'er. She said Be'er, the letter is Be'er, which is a wellspring. What is the wellspring? It's the place where you get koach. It's a place where you get nourishment, where you get life. Water is life. Be'er, Bet, Aleph, Resh. Bat Galim, Iris, Rachel, the name of the 3 mothers. They are Be'er.
That was said by the Lubaya.
Yeah?
Big girl said that by the Lubaya.
Oh, so she said that, yeah. And then it was another thing. They also saw Rachel's name was in the boys. Naphtali. I don't remember whether it was a Resh, Chet, and a Lamed somewhere also in their names. That the name Rachel was also there. That Rachel. Yeah. There's so many.
So, Judge Nissenbaum said on Sunday night that there's some jachtas that started since these boys were taken. She said that it's very interesting that each boy, one boy is Emuna, this
Right. Yeah. Very, yeah, that was for sure. For sure.
When you said that each of these boys, before they were born, signed a contract, so to speak, they were told and they agreed to it. Well, their parents also.
100%. Everyone. Everyone who is involved with the suffering. Let me just also tell you another thing. It's actually harder for us than it is for the actual family, and I'll tell you why. When Hashem sends down in Nisayon, with his Rahmanas, he sends down the bucket of the Nisayon to someone, a tragedy, God forbid, not on anyone. With the bucket of pain, he also sends a bucket full of Band-Aids and gauze pads and sterile, liquid and all that's needed to heal the wound. Who gets that bucket together with the Nisayon? The ones who are closest to the tragedy. Us, who were not, it didn't, thank God, didn't happen. We only get the Nisayon. We don't get the bucket. of healing utensils and tools. So in some ways, it's actually harder for a lot of us because we didn't get that extra dose of koach like the families did. So we have to remember that too. So for us to say, we're putting ourselves as if, God forbid, in their nisayon. We all, none of us can say, we don't look at one of our children and say, but it could have been him, it could have been him, it could have been this one of my children, it could have, right? Every single one of us say that. How would I deal with it? How would I smell his clothes in the morning? How would I fold that laundry that was still left in the laundry basket? How would I get up the next morning? How would I pick myself up? I so many times I think about that. I sometimes fold my kids' clothes and I think to myself, how do these parents put away the clothes of these kids after they've died? How do you do that the next morning? How do you pick yourself up from there? And I say to myself, but I wasn't given the utensil box that went along with the sorrow. So putting myself in that nisayon only makes me to the point where I almost, God forbid, get so angry at Hashem. But I have to understand, I'm looking at it only from the harshness of it. I didn't get the Band-Aids. I didn't get the first aid box with it. So putting myself in that nisayon is actually causing me, God forbid, to have feelings of chas v'shalom, like apikoros, feelings of like, this is not 100%. You have to be very careful also from doing that.
Just like we shouldn't compare someone for the good that they
Right.
get. We should compare. We shouldn't.
It's somehow, at one point, we just have to you know how you leave. I'm very famous for writing emails with 3 dots. I don't know if anyone noticed. I love everything I do is with 3 dots. The titles of my daily dose is 3 dots. Because I feel like there's always a continuation. It's sort of my mindset. I always write the 3 dots because I always feel like I never can understand anything. There's always a continuation that goes beyond me. That's the somehow, when I say the word somehow, it's 3 dots after it. I don't know, but I love you, Hashem. I love you. I'm nuts about you, Hashem, and I know you love us more than I love you. And I know that all the answers are just there. They're all there. And none of us are going to have any questions. Bezrat Hashem, by next week, at the latest, Tisha B'Av, we should have no questions, live in full clarity, have the Beis HaMikdash, all be dancing in the women's section of the Beis HaMikdash with our tumbas and all the great instruments.